Hello friends, today I am going to talk to you about the poem The Lamb, written by William Blake. William Blake is an English poet who is also a painter and a printmaker. He was a contemporary of the writers like William Wordsworth and Coleridge and Charles Lamb. He was born in 1755 and died in 1827. At the time when he lived, his poetry was not at all well received because his poetry was very different from the kind of poetry that was written those days. And he was a person who looked at the world with a unique perspective. And right from the time he was a child, he was quite a strange child, we should say, because he claimed that he could see visions, strange visions. I remember reading about how he once had a vision of a tree full of angels, and he claimed that he could speak to God, and he often spoke to God and told other people about it, but nobody would believe him. But fortunately his parents took him quite seriously, and they encouraged him. They found that he was very talented in drawing, and so he was made an apprentice with an engraver, and he excelled in the art. And he was also interested in writing. He started writing poetry. He has written many poems and he compiled those poems, and the two collections that are most famous are the Songs of Experience and the Songs of Innocence. Now this poem, titled The Lamb, is found in the collection called The Songs of Innocence. And here this poem is almost like a nursery rhyme, where you find a child asking a question to a lamb. So let us read the poem. The Lamb by William Blake. Little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? Gave thee life and bid thee feed by the stream and over the mead? Gave thee clothing of delight, softest clothing woolly bright? Gave thee such a tender voice, making all the vales rejoice. Little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? Little lamb, I'll tell thee. Little lamb, I'll tell thee. He is called by thy name, for he calls himself a lamb. He is meek and he is mild. He became a little child. I a child and thou a lamb. We are called by his name. Little lamb, God bless thee. Little lamb, God bless thee. So that is the sweet little poem titled The Lamb. And I should also tell you that Blake himself has made an engraving of this poem, where you can see this picture of a child, a little boy, and a flock of sheep surrounding him, and him talking to one of them. So that picture, that shows us the setting, a very rural setting, and an innocent child talking to a little lamb. And so here the child, there are just two stanzas here, and the child asks the lamb, little lamb, who made thee? Do you know who made thee? And who is the one that gave you life and gave you food, bid thee feed, in the sense who gave you life and also fed you by the stream, and who is the one who told you that you can feed, that you will find enough food, ample food, by the stream and over the meadows? Mead means meadows. And who gave you the clothing of delight, softest clothing woolly bright, because you have such delightful clothing, because we know that the lamb is covered with fur that is soft to touch, and so soft and so warm, and if it is white it would also be bright. And so who gave you the clothing of delight, softest clothing woolly bright? Gave thee such a tender voice, and what a sweet voice you have, making all the vales rejoice. Vales, valleys. So the voice or the bleating of the sheep would make all the vales rejoice. And then again he asks the question, little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? So that is the question that he asks the lamb. And of course, he knows that the lamb cannot answer him. And so he says, "Little lamb, I'll tell you, I'll give the answer to the questions that I have asked you." And in the next stanza, he answers the very same questions that he himself had put forward. He says, "Little lamb, I'll tell thee, little lamb, I'll tell thee, he is called by thy name, for he calls himself a lamb." So he says, it is God who made you. Though he doesn't use the word God here, it is he calls himself a lamb. So we know that in the Bible too, Jesus Christ, the figure of the lamb, the image of the lamb is very significant in the Bible, because God talks of himself as the lamb. God also talks of the people as lambs, and God as the shepherd, that God is the shepherd who would protect his flock of lambs. And even if one lamb is lost, the shepherd would leave all the others and go in search of the lost lamb. So the image of the lamb is very, very significant in relation to the Bible. And so here he says, he is also called by your name, for he calls himself a lamb. So here the reference is to Jesus Christ, who is called the Lamb of God. He is meek and he is mild. So Christ too, God too, is meek and mild like you. There is no violence at all. There is no hatred. There is no violence. No evil feeling is there in the Lamb. And just like that, in God too, he is very meek and very mild. He became a little child, in the sense God was born on earth as a child. Here once again it's very obvious that the reference is to Christ, who came to earth as a human child and suffered on earth in order to deliver mankind. So he became a little child. And again, there is a story in the Bible about Jesus telling his followers to be like children, be as innocent as children, isn't it? So he became a little child. I a child, thou a lamb, we are called by his name. So he says, I am a child, you are a lamb. That means both of us are manifestations of the God who created us. We are called by his name. So you and I, we are actually manifestations or representatives of God himself. Little lamb, God bless thee. Little lamb, God bless thee. So that is the poem, The Lamb. And here in this poem, he talks about the Creator, God, and he expresses his gratitude for having created the lamb and for having created him. And he acknowledges the greatness of God the Creator. Now this poem is always read in connection with yet another poem which is quite different from this one, the poem titled The Tyger. These two are clubbed together as companion poems. Now the Tyger is a poem that is included in the Songs of Experience, but they are to be read together because they give us another face of God, face, F-A-C-E, of God. Here we have the meek God, but there we have a very different God. Let us take a look at the poem, The Tyger too. Tyger, tyger burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand, what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dead grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tyger, tyger burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? So, as mentioned earlier, this poem is read as a companion poem of The Lamb. There we saw a God the Creator, who was very meek and very mild, very loving. But here we see another God, another kind of a God. And he looks at this animal, the tiger. The tiger, as you know, is a very violent animal, a brute, an animal, a predator, an animal who preys upon other animals, preys, P-R-E-Y-S, preys upon other animals. So he begins with a description of the animal. He says, tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night. What immortal hand or eye? Here again it's the same question. Just like the child asked the lamb, who made thee? Who made thee? Here again that is the question that is put forward. Tiger, the tiger that burns bright, golden bright, even in the forests of the night, because we know that the eyes of the tiger, they burn or they shine like embers in the dark. And so he wonders, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? So who created you? Because the tiger is an animal of such perfection. If you look at the tiger, the body of the tiger, the skin, the design, the color, the combination of black and white and black and yellow. So altogether it's such a beautiful animal, such a magnificent animal. So he is sure that it cannot be a mortal who made it. And so he wonders, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what symmetry here is the perfection of the animal? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? So from where did your Creator get the fire with which he made your eyes? Is it from the distant deeps? Is it from somewhere deep? Because we know that the earth is supposed to contain molten lava in the center. So is it from there that the fire was taken, or is it from the skies? Because again, the sky is where you have thunder and lightning coming from. So where is the fire taken from? Is it from the distant deeps or the far off skies? On what wings dare he aspire? So the person who created you, what wings means what kind of imagination did he, how high did his imagination range or fly in order to design something like you? On what wings dare he aspire? On what wings dare he aspire also reminds me of Daedalus, the architect in mythology, the mythological architect who made wings of wax in order to escape from a labyrinth. He and his son Icarus, he designed wings and they flew out of the prison of the labyrinth. And so on what wings dare he aspire, in the sense that he is in awe of the creativity that could think of this animal, of the design of this animal. What the hand dare seize the fire? So what is the hand? You seem to be made of fire. The color of your skin, the eyes, your fierce, the ferocity of this animal, everything, it seems as if this animal is molded in fire. So who dared to take the fire in their hand, in his hand, and make you and craft you, mold you into such a magnificent creature? In the next stanza, and what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? So he says, he almost seems to tell us that this animal is no ordinary animal. It is not made of muscles and tissue and blood like other animals, but it seems to be made of metal. And that is why he asks, what shoulder, what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? So it seems that the sinews of this animal, of the tiger, it is made of metal. So to twist, we know that the nerves in our body, they are all, and the tissues in our body, they are all twisted in intricate designs. We have a very elaborate and a very complicated network of nerves and veins running through our body. So in the case of this animal, he wonders who would have had the strength and the art, the creativity to twist the sinews of thy heart, to create and design the veins and arteries of your heart. And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand, what dread feet. So when your heart began to beat, what did the person who make you feel? Did those hands tremble? Did those feet try to run away? Did they also feel the dread? Because this animal is so ferocious. What the hammer? What the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? So again, he compares the creation of this animal to the making of an object in a smithy, in a blacksmith's workplace. So what hammer was used? What is the chain? What furnace was thy brain? What the anvil? The anvil is the metallic piece on which something is kept and hammered, and so usually a chain used to be wound around it in order to reduce the noise and the friction. And so he wonders, what the hammer, what the chain, in what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dead grasp? Grasp again is the grasp that is used to hold on to it. When you hammer something, you need to hold on to it with one hand and hammer. The hammering is done with the other hand. So he wonders what kind of a grasp would have been needed when you were created. Dare its deadly terrors clasp. So the animal is a deadly animal. So who dared to create you? Definitely it's not a mortal. It must have been somebody who was divine. When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile to his work to see? So he says, when the animal was created, the stars must have thrown down their spears and watered heaven with their tears. So there must have been rain and there must have been falling stars when the creation happened, because we have read about stories where when there is the downfall of the angels, we see how the skies themselves have wept and the stars, the shooting stars, have moved helter-skelter in the sky to show that something dreadful is happening. And again, Blake himself had created a mythology. He had designed a mythology, and there you had this character called Urizen. So even at the time of the fall of Urizen, this happened, the throwing of spears and the heaven watering the skies with their tears. So when this animal was created, did all this happen? Did he smile his work to see? He here is God, the creator. Was he happy with the creation of the tiger? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Now comes a very significant question. Did the very same God who made the lamb make thee too? How is it possible? And there the question is not only whether it is the same person who made both of you. The question is, why did he make you? Because if God knows that the tiger is a dangerous animal, a ferocious animal, an animal that might harm his other creature, the lamb, then why did God make him? So here there is this question that was always there in the Christian theology about how God had two faces. That is, why would God create evil? Why couldn't he just stop with the creation of the good? Why the evil too? So if God created the lamb, definitely he must have created the tiger too. The idea is that the universe is not complete with just one aspect. If you have the good, there is the evil too. If you have the meek, there is the ferocious too. If you have non-violence, there is violence too. So there is a balance that has to be maintained between these two. So God must definitely have had a design when he created this. He did not do it unknowingly. He had a deliberate design when he created the two. So maybe he wanted man to understand that the world is full of good and evil. And maybe he wanted man, maybe he wanted to put man through the test to see whether he will choose the good. So many questions can be asked in relation to this. Again, there is this idea about the two faces of God, as I mentioned earlier. In the Old Testament, you have the vengeful, the very angry Yahweh who punished the wrongdoers very severely. Whereas in the New Testament, you have a very meek Jesus Christ who allowed the world to hurt him, who suffered for the sake of mankind. So here, maybe the tiger was a creation of Yahweh and the lamb was a creation of Jesus Christ. So all these questions can be put forward. And tiger, the last stanza, tiger, tiger burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry. So that stanza is very, very similar to the first one. So here, in the first stanza, the question was, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? When it comes to the last one, it is, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? So here, in both these poems, when you keep them side by side and read them together, you understand that Blake wants us to know that God is beyond our understanding. He can create the lamb, the very same God can create the tiger too. So God has immense power, and human beings should acknowledge his greatness. I guess that is what Blake wants to convey through these two poems. So these poems, they complement each other. Only if you read the two together, you would understand the significance of what Blake wants to convey. So I guess that is all I have to say about these two poems. The poems, they seem to be very simple, almost like nursery rhymes. I have often heard children even in the kindergarten reciting the poem Tiger, Tiger Burning Bright. But then it is not just a nursery rhyme, it is a poem that conveys a lot of meaning. And same is the case of the lamb. Apparently very simple, but poems which have a lot of meaning and a lot of religious significance.